My mother sabotaged every relationship I had. Then I discovered why my mother loved me, but she also destroyed every person I ever loved. Hey everyone, before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button if you want more stories just like this. Thanks for the support. My name is Liam, and I am 25 years old. For most of my adult life, I've been haunted by a ghost, a shadow that followed me through every attempt at happiness, every relationship that promised a future. It wasn't a specter from some haunted house or a lingering curse from a past life. It was something far more tangible, far more intimate, and infinitely more cruel. It was the lingering presence of my mother, woven into the fabric of my failed romances like a poison thread. I just didn't know it yet. All I knew was the pattern, the heartbreaking, repetitive cycle that left me alone and confused, staring at my phone at 3 a.m., wondering what was fundamentally wrong with me. The latest chapter in this saga had just closed, its pages still wet with the ink of another breakup. Her name was Ava, a vibrant artist with a laugh that felt like sunlight and eyes that held the kind of depth you could get lost in for hours. We had been perfect, or so I thought. We connected on every level, from our shared love for obscure indie films to our quiet understanding of each other's need for personal space. The breakup came as a complete shock. One day we were planning a weekend trip to the coast, and the next, she was telling me she couldn't do it anymore, that she felt a persistent unease around me, a feeling she couldn't quite explain but couldn't shake. It was the same vague, unnerving reason I'd heard before. Before Ava, there was Isabella, a brilliant law student who ended things because she heard from a friend that I was uncomfortable with her ambition and felt threatened by her success, a complete fabrication. Before her, Sophia, a kind-hearted nurse who became convinced I was secretly still in love with an ex from high school, a rumor so baseless I couldn't imagine its origin. Each time, the relationship would be sailing smoothly, a beacon of hope in my life, and then a storm would roll in without warning, a storm built from whispers, doubts, and lies that were invisible to me, but painfully real to them. I was always the last to know, the one left to pick up the pieces of shattered trust one never saw breaking. I would replay every conversation, every moment, searching for the flaw, the fatal misstep that led to my downfall. I found nothing. All I found was a growing sense of dread, a chilling suspicion that my love life was not a series of unfortunate events, but a meticulously orchestrated disaster. And the conductor of this symphony of sorrow, I was beginning to fear, was someone who held my heart in a grip far tighter than any girlfriend ever had. The silence in my apartment after Ava left was deafening, a hollow void where her laughter used to be. I scrolled through our old text messages, a digital graveyard of what once was. The shift in her tone was so sudden, so jarring. 1 week, her messages were filled with heart emojis and plans for the future. The next, they were short, clipped, and devoid of warmth. The change seemed to coincide with a weekend she had spent visiting her family. I remembered her being distant when she returned, her eyes holding a flicker of something I mistook for simple travel fatigue. Now, a cold knot of suspicion tightened in my stomach. I thought back to Isabella, the law student. Her change in demeanor had also been abrupt, happening right after a chance encounter with my mother at a local coffee shop. My mom had just happened to be there when Isabella was studying, and they'd had a lovely chat. At the time, I'd been pleased they got along. Now, that memory curdled. Then there was Sophia, the nurse. The rumors about my ex had started circulating after my mom had come to the hospital for a minor procedure and had bonded with Sophia over a shared break. The pattern was no longer a faint whisper in the back of my mind. It was a screaming siren. My mother, a woman who prided herself on being my biggest supporter, my confidant, my rock, was always there, a benign presence at the periphery of my relationships, a helpful hand offering advice, a shoulder to cry on. But what if that hand wasn't helping? What if that shoulder was whispering poison? The thought was so monstrous, so unthinkable, that I almost dismissed it. This was my mother, the woman who raised me alone after my father left when I was 10, the woman who worked 2 jobs to put me through school. The woman whose world, I had always believed, revolved around my happiness. To even consider that she could be the source of my misery felt like a betrayal. But the evidence was piling up, a mountain of circumstantial proof that was becoming too heavy to ignore. She had an uncanny ability to know things about my girlfriends, intimate details they had never shared with me. She would make offhand comments that would later echo in the reasons they gave for leaving. I needed to be sure. I needed to find proof, something concrete that would either validate my horrifying theory or put my paranoid mind to rest. My mind raced, searching for a way in. And then it hit me. My mother was old school in some ways. She preferred email to text, and for years, she had insisted on having the passwords to all my accounts, just in case of an emergency. I hadn't used my old university email address in years, but I knew she still had access to it. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot I had. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I opened my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, terrified of what I might find. The login screen for my old email account stared back at me, a digital gateway to a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird as I typed in the password, one my mother had helped me set up a decade ago. The inbox loaded, a sea of unread spam and forgotten newsletters. I ignored it and went straight to the sent folder. My breath caught in my throat. The folder was full, page after page of sent emails from the last 5 years, spanning the entire timeline of my adult dating life. My hand trembled as I clicked on the first one. The subject line read, "A few things you should know about Liam." The recipient was Isabella. The sender's name was mine, but the words were not mine. The email was a masterpiece of manipulation, a carefully crafted blend of half-truths and outright lies. It detailed my supposed insecurities about Isabella's career, twisting a single, light-hearted comment I'd made into a deep-seated psychological issue. It mentioned fabricated conversations where I'd expressed my fear of being outshone. It was signed, "Thinking of you, a concerned friend." A wave of nausea washed over me. I clicked on another one, this time sent to Sophia. This one was even more insidious. It detailed a secret obsession with a high school girlfriend, complete with invented details about late-night pining and social media stalking. It warned Sophia that I was incapable of moving on, that she was just a placeholder. The language was chilling, empathetic, and caring on the surface, but designed with surgical precision to inflict maximum doubt and insecurity. I scrolled through dozens of these emails, each one a dagger to my heart. Emails to Ava, warning her that I had a fear of commitment and would eventually suffocate her with my neediness. Emails to women I had only been on a few dates with, preemptively poisoning the well before anything could even begin. Then I found it, the smoking gun. In my mother's own email account, which was linked as a recovered contact, I found the drafts. The original, unsanitized versions of the emails. Here, her true voice came through. "That girl is not good enough for my Liam," one draft began. "She will take him away from me, just like his father did." Another read, "He is too blind to see it, but I must protect him. I must protect us." The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about breaking us up. It was about possession. She wasn't protecting me. She was caging me. Every failed relationship, every moment of heartache and confusion, every tear I'd shed, it all traced back to her. The woman I loved most in the world was the architect of my deepest pain. I leaned back in my chair, the screen's glare blurring as my eyes filled with tears. I felt a profound sense of violation, a sickness that went soul deep. Just then, I heard the familiar jingle of keys in the front door lock. My mother was home. The sound of the key turning in the lock was like a gunshot in the silent apartment. I quickly slammed my laptop shut, the screen going black, but the images seared into my mind. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, a chaotic rhythm of rage, betrayal, and a strange, hollowed-out fear. The door opened, and my mother, Carol, walked in, her arms laden with grocery bags. She looked exactly as she always did, kind, cheerful, the picture of maternal devotion. She smiled when she saw me, A warm, genuine smile that now looked like a grotesque mask. "Liam, sweetheart, you won't believe the sale they had on chicken," she said, her voice the same soothing tone that had once been my greatest comfort. She bustled into the kitchen, humming to herself, completely unaware of the seismic shift that had just occurred in the living room. I watched her, my body frozen, my mind racing. How do you confront the person who has systematically dismantled your life from the inside out? How do you find the words to question the foundation of your entire existence? For a moment, I considered saying nothing, just packing a bag and disappearing into the night. But the weight of the evidence, the sheer scale of her deception, demanded a response. I couldn't let this go. I stood up, my legs feeling like lead, and walked into the kitchen. She was putting the groceries away, her back to me. I opened my laptop again, the screen illuminating the damning email drafts. I placed down the kitchen counter in front of her. "Mom," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, devoid of emotion. "We need to talk." She turned, her cheerful expression faltering as she saw the look on my face. Her eyes flickered to the laptop screen, and I watched in real time as the color drained from her face. The mask was slipping. Her eyes darted from the screen to my face, a flicker of panic in their depths. "Liam, what is this? What are you doing with my email?" she stammered, her voice losing its usual composure. "It's not your email, Mom," I said, my voice cold as ice. "It's mine, or at least it's from my account. Read it." Her hands trembled as she reached for the laptop, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She didn't need to read it. She knew what was there. The denial came quickly, a torrent of flimsy excuses. She was just trying to protect me. Those girls weren't right for me. She saw things I couldn't see because I was blinded by love. But I didn't let her get away with it. I pushed, my voice rising with a fury I didn't know I possessed. I listed the names, the breakups, the specific lies she had told. With each name, with each accusation, her facade crumbled a little more. The confident, caring mother persona gave way to something else, something desperate and cornered. Her eyes filled with tears, but these were not the tears of a mother caught in a well-intentioned mistake. These were the tears of a child whose favorite toy was being taken away. Her composure finally shattered, and she collapsed into a kitchen chair, sobbing uncontrollably. "They were going to leave you," she wailed, her voice thick with a grief that seemed both real and utterly self-serving. "All of them, just like he did." She looked up at me, her face a mess of tears and mascara, and the name she uttered next hung in the air between us, a ghost from the past that finally explained everything. "David, your father. He left us, Liam. I can't let you leave me too." The name echoed in the small kitchen, a name I hadn't heard her speak with such raw emotion in over a decade. David, my father, the man who had packed a single suitcase and walked out of our lives when I was 10, leaving behind nothing but a void and a mother who had to become both parents. The official story was always that he was a wanderer, a man who couldn't be tied down. But as I looked at my mother's crumpled form, her body racked with sobs, I realized I had only ever heard one side of that story. Her story. Through her tears, the truth began to spill out, a torrent of repressed pain and twisted logic. She confessed that after my father left, she had made a silent, subconscious vow. I would be her anchor, her rock, the man in her life who would never leave. She poured all her love, all her hopes, all her unfulfilled dreams into me. She wasn't just my mother. She had made me her surrogate partner, her emotional husband in a child's body. She celebrated my successes as her own, not with parental pride, but with the vicarious thrill of someone living through another. And when I started dating, it wasn't just a son growing up, it was a betrayal. Each girlfriend wasn't just a potential partner for me. She was a rival, a threat to the delicate, suffocating ecosystem she had built around us. She saw them as temptresses, luring me away, promising me a new life, a new family that didn't include her. She described the terror she felt when I brought Isabella home, the fear that Sophia's compassionate nature would fix me and make me independent, the jealousy that burned within her when she saw how happy Ava made me. She wasn't lying to my girlfriends out of malice, she insisted, but out of a primal, desperate need for self-preservation. The emails, the rumors, the subtle manipulations, they were all acts of war, a battle to keep me to herself. She was living a half-life, and she was dragging me down with her. Listening to her, a strange mix of emotions washed over me. There was anger, of course, a burning rage for the years of happiness she had stolen from me. There was pity for the lonely, terrified woman who couldn't let her son grow up. But most of all, there was a profound, soul-crushing sadness. The love I thought I had received, the unwavering support, the deep maternal bond, it was all a lie. A transaction. I wasn't her son. I was her security blanket. I looked at the woman sitting at the table, her face streaked with tears, and I didn't see my mother anymore. I saw a stranger, a deeply damaged person who had hollowed me out to fill the emptiness inside herself. The realization was a clean break, a final severing of a cord that had been choking me for years. Our relationship, as I knew it, was over. The weeks that followed were a blur of numbness and quiet, deliberate action. The first thing I did was find a new apartment, a small, sterile space on the other side of town that held no memories, no ghosts. Moving out was less a dramatic confrontation and more a slow, silent extraction. I packed my belongings while my mother watched. Her eyes red-rimmed and hollow, a silent plea on her lips that I no longer had the capacity to answer. There were no more angry outbursts, no more tearful confessions. Just a heavy, suffocating silence that said more than words ever could. I left without a goodbye, just a single box of my things left in the living room, a final quiet severing of our shared life. The emptiness of my new apartment was jarring, but it was a clean emptiness, a blank slate. It was the first time in my life I had truly been alone, without the constant, smothering presence of my mother's influence. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. I knew I couldn't simply walk away and pretend it never happened. The damage was too deep. I found a therapist, a kind, patient woman who helped me untangle the complex web of love, obligation, and resentment that had defined my relationship with my mother. She helped me understand that my mother's actions, while inexcusable, came from a place of profound brokenness. This knowledge didn't excuse her, but it allowed me to start separating her actions from my own self-worth. I also had to face the wreckage of my past relationships. I wrote a long, difficult letter to Ava, laying everything bare, the emails, my mother's breakdown, the suffocating nature of her love. I didn't ask for forgiveness or a second chance. I just wanted her to know the truth, to absolve herself of any guilt for our breakup. To my surprise, she wrote back. She didn't want to get back together. The trust was too shattered for that, but she thanked me for my honesty and wished me peace. It was a closure I never thought I would get. My relationship with my mother now exists in a new, fragile form. We speak on the phone once a week, the conversation's stilted and superficial. She is trying, in her own clumsy way, to understand what she did, to find a new way to live that doesn't involve possessing me. I am trying, too, to find a way to love the woman who is my mother without being consumed by the woman who is my jailer. It is a slow, painful process, a dance of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But for the first time, it is a process that is mine. I'm no longer a character in my mother's story. I'm the author of my own. Sitting in my quiet apartment, looking out at the city lights, I feel a sense of loss for the family I never had. But I also feel an overwhelming sense of freedom. The shadow is gone. The future is unwritten. And for the first time, it is mine to write.